Jim, Rowan, how you going? It is the 28th of March, 2021 on a... not a cloud in the sky. A beautiful day. This is how I'm starting my Sunday morning. Is how I planned on ending my Monday night. And then my Tuesday night. And then things just got out of control from there. I've had a very, very busy week. So my apologies for... I think I said on the last one that I would... Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I said I would get... or I would try to get this New Japan Cup wrap-up podcast show done. Yeah, Monday, Tuesday. But it didn't work out. My apologies. So here it is. We're going to go through the New Japan Cup semi-finals and the final, of course, the whole card for all of it. And there's been some news since then as well, so it, there's a bit of extra stuff to cover off, but we've got some downtime in between. I'll get to that at the end, my plans over the Easter break. Let's just jump straight in, because we've waited long enough. On the 20th of March, the New Japan Cup was in the Zebio Arena, I want to call it. It's in Sendai. And Kevin Kelly, Chris Charlton, Gino Gambino, they weren't live in the arena, but they were providing live English commentary for the first time on this tour. And we started with Grado Khan, Jeff Cobb versus Umura and Juice Robinson. And I suppose Juice has received a package, because he's now wearing the Impact World Tag Team title belt. They've either he's been hiding it in his bag or they've shipped it over to him. But there it is. To the match, though, we have Cobb nearly killing Umura, trying to lift him above his head. But Umura, of course, always full of fight. He tries a Kanuki suplex. Cobb isn't having it. And Tour of the Islands. A common way to finish a match on this tour. And Umura feels it in full force for the finish on this occasion. After the match, Juice says he and Finley want to take the Impact Tag titles around the world in multiple, not just in multiple countries, but in multiple promotions. And not just in Impact and New Japan. He's real excited about it. Umura says what he often says, he just wants to get stronger. Khan says that their time has finally come and their strength will grow with the addition of a new member. Cobb is bleeding. And he told us. I told you, he says. He told us the Empire would bring order to New Japan. There will be bloodshed along the way. Of course, he's the first. Well, I don't know if he's the first, but he has shed blood on his campaign, so he's not lying. The next match was Bad Luck Fale, Grado, and Chase Owens versus Toriyano, Sho Yoshihashi. And this is mostly a silly match, but Grado wants to use his kendo stick, and the Chaos Boys came to the rescue. Fale holds Yano back for Grado to hit, but cops a low blow. Then Grado cops a low blow. Then Yano rolls him up and wins the match. Kinda what you'd expect, really. Gino calls for VAR, which, for those of you that aren't soccer/football fans, that's the video assistant referee. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's just what they call it in soccer. I don't know about... I know other sports have video replays, but I think VAR is... I think it is. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of other sports. But I thought it was kind of funny. Gino's a bit of a football fan then, I guess, or a soccer fan. And the promo after this one is Sho introduces himself as Uejima's ambassador, which is the the prefecture or the region that they're in. I don't know. Yoshi reflects on his tournament exit, but he still has a title defense to look forward to. Excuse me while I just sip on my coffee as we go along here. Doki, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bushi, Naito, and Sonata. Taichi just celebrated his 40th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Taichi. But it's a shame because he really deserves a run at something in more of a singles capacity. But I mean, I don't think New Japan are likely to be pushing a guy in his 40s. So it's bittersweet, but I'm sure he had plenty of whiskey and a good time. And by the way, I'm not even necessarily pointing out that they should be pushing a guy entering his 40s. I'm just pointing out that it's a shame. Although maybe I would go on record and say that Taichi deserves a singles run. You know what? I'm not afraid of that. I've become a big Taichi fan recently. In recent times, in recent months. Look, anyway. So commentary speculate as to the possibility of Finjuice putting their Impact titles on the line in New Japan, and one of the few serious challenges are right here, and Zack and Taichi, of course. Don't want to lose them from the tag division either. We can't lose anything from the tag division. It's pretty bare. And, of course, they've recently declared that they are formally back in the tag division. So, for this one, Zack seems to have a bone to pick with Sonata, although they always seem to have a bit of a rivalry. Attackers kind of rivalry. It's a man he has complimented in the past on commentary recently, so perhaps he wants to take that back. They trade rolling pins, and that goes back and forth several times. Doki finds himself with a compromised Sonata, but as he goes for suplex de la Luna, he is triple teamed, and Sonata eventually finishes him with the skull end, though Doki gave Sonata a couple of things to worry about first. And then Naito attacks Gabriel Kidd for some reason after the match. And then Taichi does it. And it seems they are trying to show each other how to properly choke this poor young man, who I suppose is just in the wrong place at the wrong time. After the match, Zack calls Sonata a cyber pirate. A cyber pirate? I think I've heard that one before from Zack. He says this match was a waste of time, that his arms may be sober, but his legs are udon. And he gets a laugh from one or two of the Japanese officials or press members there with that one. Soba being... I think what he means is, I think udon is a harder noodle. I know soba is the... I think soba's the thick, soft, cold ones. I'm pretty sure soba's cold. I didn't really like it. Taichi is choking Umura when he enters. Who has a meal that's not cold? That's not warm? Is it even a meal if it's not warm? I mean, it's okay if it was previously warm and then you put it in the fridge and you're having leftovers and you just don't feel like heating it up. That I can accept. But I don't know. I gave it a go. Taichi is... Oh, he's still choking people. He's choking Umura now when he enters the press area. He says the match was only good for burning off last night's alcohol, so there you go, he did party. But otherwise, LIJ are boring to face. He wants GOD and the tag titles. They're going to head to the sauna now. Naito asks if we saw what just happened. No, not the choking. Tsuji tried to tell him something. It was something about what he wanted to accomplish by today. Naito says he admires Tsuji's efforts, and he kind of teases it as if he's about to give him the match anyway, but then instead he asks, well, what are you going to do about it? If you haven't reached your goal, what is your plan B? Tell me about it, you know? So he's fishing for something more interesting before he gives him a match. Tanahashi, Okada, and Ibushi versus Jay White, Yujiro, and Kenta. The different eras of ace here on the A team. You got the guy they're getting behind just now and seem to be pushing as the current top guy, although Okada's still significantly younger than Ibushi. But Okada, I mean, I think it's fair to say he's had that ace arc already, and it's now post-ace arc, not to say he can't have another one. And Tanahashi, of course, his days of ace are well and truly over at this point. But it's a cool team. And Ibushi still, of course, has the 2 title belts. This is not the place to debut a historic progression for the company. But the commentary team note that Okada lays back as Tanahashi and Ibushi pose for photos because he's used to being the center of attention. And of course, he doesn't have the same relationship with those two that they have with each other, Ibushi and Tanahashi formerly being tag champions together. But not that long ago. Anyway, Yujiro, of course, has showed up to take the fall before the match even starts. But other than that, as I said, a bunch of stars in this one. Pretty interesting. Ibushi starts with White, but when Ibushi enters his corner, both men hesitate before tagging in. The match is just getting going when an earthquake hits. And everyone exits the ring, the camera zooms out, there's an announcement over the speaker. Charlton reveals he's in an office in Roppongi, and he feels the shake as well. He describes it as minor, but sustained, and then kind of believes it to be subsiding, but it causes a delay of about 20 minutes. And you can see there is panic in the audience. I don't know if they didn't... Because I think, I mean, I'm not in a place where earthquakes are common or even, I don't know, possible. But it's not something, so it's not something I've experienced. But I believe the protocol is to kind of stay where you are. You almost kind of want to be in a big structure. You don't want to be outside because I think a bigger danger than anything collapsing would be things falling on you that were not secured. You know, the buildings are secured. I'm sure in Japan they go to a lot of effort to make sure they're specifically secured for earthquakes. So, but yeah, I think a lot of people left. Anyway, I just skipped ahead because I wasn't watching live. So Wyatt took the pause to steal all of the title belts from his opponents. He just collects them all, and then with the distraction, the action resumes. Though, of course, and well, not of course. They could have called the match. They could have called it off. Actually, they could have called the whole event off. But they decided to go ahead, and then some of the fans. There were still fans there. Okada seems to be struggling a bit in the ring, and looks for a tag before reconsidering his tag to Ibushi. He decides to just stick it out himself. Yujiro forces him into the corner, so Ibushi tags in himself anyway. White interrupts Ibushi's progress, and the ref has little to say about it. There's the usual all-in, everyone-in sequence. Okada seems happy to work with Tanahashi to take White out of the picture, but very notably, Ibushi shoves Okada out of the way to deal with the legal man Yujiro himself, finishing him and the match with the Kamigoye. So Okada's not particularly impressed with that, although from what we saw, Okada was the one with the bad attitude to begin with. He exits the ring pretty quickly after the official decision. Tanahashi isn't far behind him, but with a lot less attitude, and Ibushi stands in the ring, a lonely figure. After the match, the promos, White says Finley had a tour of surprises and his loss will be corrected. He admits if he had progressed to face Ibushi, splitting those titles up would have been about living in the past. Instead, he'll look ahead and be the first ever quadruple crown champion by defeating Tanahashi for the Never title, because of course he beat Tanahashi in the New Japan Cup. But you know what? I think at that time I was thinking that White would have no interest in the Never title. But I think White's comments himself, he kept that open, which of course makes sense in hindsight, but at the time I think I was expecting White to dismiss it. Maybe he did, I don't even remember now. But Tanahashi, in his comments, says that he's never experienced an earthquake during a match before. Fan safety was paramount in his mind, and Ibushi echoes these sentiments. Not much else was said. Moving along to the New Japan Cup semi-final, the first of two, of course, because that's how semi-finals work. Will Osprey versus David Finley. And Finley has the Impact Tag title around his waist as well. I'm not always nice to Finley. I covered this in the last podcast. But Kelly does do a good job of making him a sympathetic figure. He talks about his double shoulder surgery. That sounds so rough. And there's also... okay, no, I just started writing about David Finley Sr., who I am a big fan of, but he's not really relevant here. He's underrated though, and I tell you what, I can say this now, ahead of this match. That's what they have in common. Father, like son, both really good, underrated wrestlers. I came to understand after this match. So, really tight chain wrestling to begin the match, and oh my god, I've lost my place. Yes, chain wrestling, very tight. It was good. Good start to the match. It was somewhat uninspired, but it at the same time didn't have that choreography feel to it. So, no, it was good. I mean, it was just the usual moves, that's all. But they did them well, and it still looked like a wrestling match, a proper, it looked like a contest, I guess is what I'm getting at. So it was a strong start. Oh yeah, and I noticed Finley isn't wearing his tag team tights. Those the ones that match Juice's tights. He's got his own tights tonight. Finley's working really hard and gains himself an advantage, but the question becomes, is his inexperience in a long main event match going to come back to haunt him later? Because of course Osprey has been gaining that kind of experience for a while now. And Osprey manages to put Finley down, decides to remove the elbow pad, but once again Finley springs up before damage can be done. It's clear to everyone he is beginning to fade. He finds the energy to fight Osprey up on the turnbuckle and hits a superplex. It makes sense that his next move is the acid drop, but Osprey predicts it and reverses it. Or maybe it was the Prima Nocta. I wrote Prima Nocta because I'm confused between these moves, having not really paid attention to Finley's matches before. But I'm pretty sure Prima Nocta is his stunner just on the mat, and acid drop is his finisher off the turnbuckle. Well, we'll just go with what I wrote. Prima Nocta is reversed. Osprey hits a hook kick. And then he does that terrible fireman carry sit-out facebuster kind of side slam thing he does. I remember him first doing this and thinking that there was a botch and that he just did a decent job of saving it and kind of turning it into something that looked like a wrestling move. But no, he's persisting with this. He keeps doing this thing and it looks terrible. Definitely not a good false finish move, which is what they try here. Although, it's not like, again, I'm not a fan of Finley's finish either. But anyway, oh yeah, and I noticed that Finley was at ringside. I didn't really notice that until a significant portion of the match was over, but I suppose that's a good thing because it means A, that he hasn't gotten involved, and B, that the match has largely taken place in the ring. So, We're moving along now, though. Finley goes for his finish. The acid drop, this is. And I actually did try looking it up, but I mean, I guess no one cares enough about this poor kid to really comment on his moveset too much, so it didn't come up instantly in searches. But I'm pretty sure I've got it right now. Acid drop's a big one, off the turnbuckle. So Osprey shoves him off the turnbuckle, and Finley hits the barricade hard on the outside. He's holding his ankle, and the referee attends. Juice is concerned. Osprey wants to start the count with the referee, which is kind of shitty, but he's got a point. So eventually the count starts. Finley can barely stand, but he scrambles into the ring only to be ambushed straight away. Osprey flying across the ring with a drop kick. He hooks on a figure four. He takes the boot off the injured ankle to really force the issue. Juice is thinking about throwing in the towel, but Finley makes it to the ropes himself after a considerable struggle. Osprey won't let up. The referee pulls him away from punching him in the head, and he tries to desperately launch an attack, but Osprey effortlessly sidesteps it due to the immobility of Finley at this point. He tries again, but it's just too telegraphed. Osprey brushes it off. But what he did not see coming was a stunner out of midair when Osprey went for the Oz Cutter. Finley wrestling now with not just one foot, but with one boot. He wills himself to his feet to take advantage of his quick thinking. He hooks Osprey's head for the acid drop, but his ankle gives out and he collapses on the way. He tries to hulk up, but he runs into a flash Stormbreaker attempt, only to counter it into a Hurricanrana for two. Finley fights through the pain to run up the turnbuckle, but Osprey catches him on his shoulder, powerbombs him, then maintains contact to hit the Stormbreaker and finish the match. And I mentioned last week that I had to eat crow, and this is it. This is all the making fun of that I've done of Finley. And again, I'm not saying I'm necessarily wrong about it, especially the promos. But I call him a jobber and stuff, dude. This was a great match. He really earned not that my respect means anything to him, but I'm just saying he really earned my respect with this one. Maybe it should have come sooner. But then again, Finley's been saying the same thing. Like, he just needs the opportunity. The only real opportunities he's been given in New Japan are in the tag division. And, again, I'm not even a big tag guy, so I don't pay as much attention to those matches as I'm going to pay attention to the big singles matches. It's just, I suppose, if anything, having I guess that makes me a bit of a mark, because New Japan that's kind of how New Japan have treated this guy. They've not really treated Finley as anything. He has been mid-card at best, so I've kind of treated him as such, and I suppose it's just, it almost makes it more satisfying to witness this now and be like, oh wow, I was really proven wrong. Because it has the effect it's supposed to. This was supposed to be a breakout tournament for Finley, even though he goes down to Osprey here. He got injured during the match, and he really sort of tried to fight through it, and before that was matching Osprey. That's something Kelly really plays up. The ankle injury, how Finley came really close, perhaps if it wasn't for that ankle injury. And Juice tries to help Finley out of the ring, but he clearly wants to exit under his own power, because that's the point he's making, But ultimately, what we gain from this is that Osprey advances to the New Japan Cup final. And after the match, Finley says he was he doesn't say it, he yells it, of course, that's what he does, that he was so freaking close. He can't disagree that Osprey is on another level. He says he had pinned the other two he has pinned the other two semi-finalists. So that's Evil and Shingo. But never Osprey. He calls Osprey the best of the best. And then he calls for a spot in the G1 off the back of this performance, which, you know what? I think he'll take more losses than wins, but he'll probably have some pretty good matches. I don't know. He might get in. Then B. Priestley claps in her boyfriend Will Ospreay, but he looks distracted. She tries to kind of psych him up or talk him up. He says he kind of speaks quietly. He's like, I may have underestimated Finley, but you know, credit where credit's due. It was a great performance, and that's all he really says. He keeps it pretty short. So we move along to the other semi-final: Evil versus Shingo Takagi. Important to note that it's been a really difficult run for Shingo. The way this New Japan Cup has gone for him. What did he have? Okada first, of course, and then he had to beat. Who was next? It's probably not worth too long of a pause to think about. I just remember they were hard matches, whereas Evil didn't have. Well, Evil had a bye in the first round, so that's automatically a much easier tournament. But they go straight at it in this one. They're blasting each other with forearms. Which is really, that's what I want to see with these two. That's, they should have that kind of old never style, strong style kind of a match. Which is what Evil is very capable of if Togo pisses off. But, of course, Evil rolls out of the ring to escape his former ally with his usual bull. But Shingo's right on top of him. And Charlton explains why Evil is shooting himself in the foot with these antics. As many wins as it leads him to, he's not going to be in favour of promoters because no one wants to see him. Gosh. It's funny that that's part of the kayfabe as well. I guess you can't ignore it really at this point. It's pretty awful. But Evil goes straight to that stuff anyway. Takes over on the outside. There's some chairs laid out on the ground, and Evil suplexes Shingo onto them while Togo patrols. There's the promise of the promise of the opening moments just quickly dissipates as all this goes down. Shingo makes his comeback, and the fans are right behind him. He is selling the lower back, which has been giving him problems. And he's admitted across this tour that he's beaten up generally, but he's saying it feels worse than the G1 after his last win. So he goes for the Last of the Dragon in this one, but it was well too early. He's showing some desperation, actually, in doing so. But Evil's desperate in fighting it off too. He lands a superplex. He goes for the Scorpion Deathlock, of course targeting that lower back of Shingo. And though Shingo does make it to the ropes, Evil sustains the hold as long as he can, or as long as he can get away with. Everything as Evil is stopped, attempted again, then countered into an SDO of Shingo's. Takagi, that's what? Oh yeah, he did a GTO in the last, not a GTO, a GTR. Goto, that's right, he faced Goto. So he's taken Evil's SDO as well. Takagi's moveset is like your phone, your smartphone. It updates. Takagi has trouble bringing Evil to his feet, so Togo diverts the referee's attention and leaves the chair ready for Evil, which is destroyed over Shingo's head, brutally. There's a lariat, darkness falls. Shingo kicks out, though. Evil wants to go for the STO again, but Shingo fights it off, manages a made in Japan. The referee is pushed into Shingo's way and is knocked down, so Togo enters, takes his shots on Shingo. Shingo picks Togo up, and Evil low blows him, and then they hit Shingo with a magic killer together. Togo slides the referee in for the pin, but Takagi kicks out. We're at about the 20-minute mark here. Red Shoes is still compromised, so Toko uses his garrote. They try a double team, but both go down simultaneously to a double lariat, and the audience try to will Shingo to his feet. Both competitors get up and clash in the center with lariats. Shingo catches a low blow attempt and crashes into Evil with the pumping bomber. Last of the Dragon is attempted again, and thank goodness this time it is successful. Evil goes down via pinfall, and Shingo moves ahead to the final to face Will Osprey. 2020 Cup New Japan final. So Shingo addresses the earthquake quickly to the audience, but then moves on to the match ahead. He invites Osprey to the ring, and he says he'll attempt some English. He recalls the Best of Super Juniors final in 2019, which he lost. He says this time when they face, he will win. He offers Osprey the chance to say something, but instead Osprey attacks him with a microphone. Shingo fights him off and furiously tells him to read the room. You know, everyone's already anxious in here. That was a garbage move. And then backstage, well, Osprey just kind of runs away. But backstage, Shingo says it would have been foolish to expect better from Evil, but you can't deny what it's achieved for him. He thinks the United Empire, moving on to Osprey, of course, it seems half-baked to him, but Osprey is still young, and he doesn't need this glory now. What he has, Shingo will take. The New Japan Cup belongs to him, and he will face Ibushi, who ticks him off as well. He doesn't understand the unification. He thinks most fans have lost faith in Ibushi, but it's the man that makes the belt. So as long as it reads IWGP, it's fine with Shingo, because that IWGP to him means strength. And he will save further words for tomorrow's victory speech. So let's get straight into that. They're still in Sendai, in the same arena. The next night, on the 21st, the show starts with Yo coming out for the first time in a long time. This is apparently his hometown, or the area at least where he's from. He announces his return will be at Sakura Genesis, and he wants to fight for the junior tag titles. Backstage, he talks briefly as well. He just says that his knee's ready. He wants to prove how far he can go as one half of Roppongi 3K, but he's not I wouldn't say he's a confident speaker. Moving along to the matches, Yota Tsuji, Umura, and Kid, the Young Lions, versus Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., and Doki. The youngsters put up a good fight, but it's Tsuji that goes down to the dangerous backdrop from Taichi. The Kawada style backdrop. Or you could say, he got it from Kawada, but who was the other fella? Steve Williams, Dr. Death. That was a nasty backdrop too. Zack continues attacking Kid after the match. Doki's on Uemura, and Taichi attacks the ref because Tsuji's already down for the count. After the match, Kid believes that he will one day defeat Zack. Tsuji says he received 36,000 likes and appreciates the support, but is unsure of what this failure means for him. But the bigger failure would have been to give up, so he's not doing that. He is he says perhaps instead, when he becomes IWGP World Heavyweight Champion in the future, he will name Naito as a challenger, and that's how he'll get his Naito match. So, very positive outlook from young Tsuji. Uemura felt like they were able to control him in that match, and he thinks he can do more against Doki. He wonders where Suzuki was. He continues to be on his mind and in his sights. But he needs to get stronger. That's what he always says, Uemura. Taichi describes last night as a mess. He says the elevator in their hotel died, of course referring to the earthquake. Zack says he doesn't like and does not want any more earthquakes. He doesn't like earthquakes. Taichi says the tag champions are running from him. Being disqualified is not losing a fight, and that's what happened, of course, in their last meeting with the tag champions, GOD, so they want to settle this. Second contest was Grado Khan and Jeff Cobb versus Tomoaki Honma and Satoshi Kojima. A chance for the oldies to get some revenge on these young bucks, up-and-comers. but they go down, specifically Honma, to the tour of the islands. Khan takes the mic after the match to show Osprey's support, but the microphone dies, so he throws it away and just shouts instead, which is just as effective if you're Grado Khan. He's got some lungs on him, got some pipes on him. Kojima wonders if there would be... Or he was wondering if there was still going to be a show today after the earthquake. But he's glad to be there to inspire people when needed. Honma mentions the earthquake too, promises to never give up. Khan recalls their words after Wrestle Kingdom. I didn't go back and look at it, but presumably predicting their success to come. So he calls for Osprey to execute Ibushi. And he mentions that they will have acquired a greater force. Oh no, that they have acquired a greater force, of course, referencing this newcomer to the team. Mock them if you want, he says, but you will end up a slave to the Empire. And Cobb is on track to retire all of New Japan's lessons. There'll be tours for everyone until order is restored. He says that they need a secret weapon. A secret weapon, and they have one. Stay tuned. Then we had Kenta, Yujiro, and Evil versus Sho, Yoshihashi, and Toriyano. And it was Yujiro hitting Yoshi with Pimp Juice to get the pin on him. That's a bit of a big win for Yujiro. And it earns him... I mean, of course, Yoshi's a champion, so it earns him a trios title shot for him and two friends. And the Bullet Club assault lasts long after the final bell. Beating everyone up there, and Kenta keeps Yoshi's bow staff. So after the match, Yano just runs through. I'm not sure I guess I didn't watch this match closely enough. He just says he's scared of the dark. I don't know what that was in reference to. Sho acknowledges the loss, says he's going to watch the match back and assess where they went wrong, improve and gain revenge. He's been waiting a long time to hear that Yo is back, and he wants to meet Yo in the Best of Super Juniors final, which is interesting because that's very different from what Yo said in the ring, that he wants to be a tag team again. But I suppose both of those things are possible. They can be a tag team and be in the finals. Pretty common for tag teams to want to face each other in the final just to see as most success for each other as possible. And then Yoshi says with a straight face and in kind of a conversational tone, just, "How dare you steal my bow staff, Kenta? And stop calling me ugly during our matches. And apologize to my mother." So I don't know what Kenta's been saying about his mother, but he's been pretty nasty over quite some time, actually, to Yoshihashi. And Yoshi says he won't get away with this. And then Kenta walks in with a big smile on his face and the bow staff in hand, which he thinks suits him. Kenta pretends that the staff talks to him and says to him that he hates being with that ugly guy and he doesn't want to go back to Yoshihashi. And Kenta says he's going to protect you, bow staff. He says Yoshi is uglier up close. So the nastiness continues. Yujiro comes in. He says that Yoshi ended this tour, or he and Yoshi ended this tour all square. So obviously Yoshi got a pin over him at some other point. At first, Yujiro thinks about a singles match, but then he decides he's better off going for Yoshi's title. So he's got to find a couple mates. And Evil says Chaos are a bunch of small fish. Right. Bushi, Naito, and Sonata next took on Finley, Juice Robinson, and Toa Hanare. And LIJ agree to all exit the ring and have the other team fight amongst themselves. That doesn't work, though, so Naito gets in and then refuses to engage with Finley, which is funny. Finley probably felt like he's finally proved himself, and then Naito just dismisses him straight away. He wants Juice tagged in so he can mock him and his little hand pump taunt. Nothing much of note happens until they finally tag Hanare in, and he goes ballistic on everyone, but unfortunately for him, the Japanese leg roll clutch catches him by surprise, and he loses again. And he's very, very frustrated. He notices that Juice and Finley didn't take much notice, and they've already begun to exit, and he doesn't like that. He's having a bit of a tanty at ringside. And backstage, Finley and Juice enter. Finley starts, he says, despite losing, he exceeded expectations. And then he yells about his title. And then Juice says at Rebellion, which I suppose is an Impact event coming up, they're going to allow a rematch for the Good Brothers, Anderson and Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. But they will go on to defend the titles all over the world. Hanare comes in. He thinks a roll-up is the worst way to lose because he would have preferred being knocked out. He throws the sponsor banner to the ground. He says he's going home tomorrow to New Zealand. And he's doing so empty-handed. He does say he forgives Juice, I suppose, for the transgression he noticed and not caring about his loss. But he's going to go home, he's going to get in better shape, and his last line is that I'm not always going to be here before he leaves. Maybe that'll make more sense when we next see Hanare. But Naito recognizes Tsuji's failure and is disappointed in him. He predicts a Takagi win in the final, but he can't just keep sitting around. He needs to find something to motivate himself. Because, he has been really without a cause for a while now. The New Japan Cup would have been one of them, but he lost in the first round. The now semi-main event, the final warm-up match here. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika and Okada and Kota Ibushi team up again, this time against Chase Owens, Bad Luck Fale, and Jay White. Tana and White do a pose-off. And Okada's given off some Shawn Michaels against Hogan vibes, just like not being interested in being there and being a real exaggerated oddball when called upon with his kind of movements and his selling and whatnot. Ibushi, on the other hand, is, if anything, he's overexcited. He lands on his head off a lariat from Owens and then gets triple teamed by all the Bullet Club guys. Okada saves him from a package pile driver. So he shows a little bit of teamwork. And then Tanahashi sets Owens up for a knee, so the Kamagoye goes Owens' way, and he stays down for the win. But Okada only stays long enough to have his hand raised, kind of just fulfilling his obligations, and then he quickly leaves. Ibushi and Tanahashi confront White over the gold over their shoulders. So, of course, well, I don't know, maybe they were upset about White stealing the belts last night. He didn't leave with them all, anyway. Of course, that's really setting up Tanahashi and White. That's the match they're shooting for now. And then Ibushi walks straight over to the commentary table in preparation for the main event. So, before that, we had some promos, White saying Ibushi's only confident enough to stand in front of him when he knows that he's not next in line, that when Jay is not the next one that he's going to face. That's the only time he's got enough confidence to stand in front of Jay White. And then he says Tanahashi's never title. He wants that because it actually has a history, and he can make that title into something. And then Okada comes in. He's like, it's not like Chaos and Hontai, the New Japan main unit, are best friends. He says this New Japan Cup final that he's obviously not a part of is a reminder of his to just how far away he is from the title, but eventually Ibushi will need to meet Okada. Tanahashi says White is still very young and he has some time to come before the Never title. Oh no, he's saying he's got time to come for the Never title before returning to the IWGP title scene. So he's not surprised that White wants it, but he offers some advice as a senpai. He says a fickle man will never be popular. And now we have the New Japan Cup final. Will Osprey versus Shingo Takagi. Big match feel, and a couple of guys that only deliver good matches, really. Oh my god. Ugh. My coffee's gone cold. I should have expected that. Okay. So let's press ahead. Shingo brings a sword to the ring, which they probably should make sure it isn't kept at ringside, but he has his back taped up, while Osprey, of course, still has his shoulder taped up. Cobb and Khan sit at ringside. Oh, jeez, and Khan's been talking about Osprey executing someone. Well, he's been talking about him executing Ibushi, but if he's going to do it to Ibushi, I'm sure he would do it to Shingo on his way to Ibushi, so they really should make sure that sword is either really blunt or nowhere near Khan, at least. But yeah, they don't sit at commentary, they just kind of pick a seat in one of the corners of the ringside area. It's a measured start from the two finalists, though, although they both attempt a signature move early on to no avail. Shingo uses the damaged nose of Osprey. Of course, that's a factor as well, though. He's saying it's broken. I don't think it was actually broken, but Osprey, I think it's part of the storyline, maybe that it was broken. Shingo uses that nose to stop Osprey from resisting a throw, and then moments later he targets the shoulder while it's hung over the barricade. Osprey drops Shingo back first onto the barricade, right in front of Ibushi, and Shingo just bounces off it. Like, you could just tell there was no other part of his body had contact with anything else. He just took all of his weight crashing down on that barricade. It looked really painful, and it's right at the start of the match. And then Osprey, that's his target acquired, and he just starts hammering that back mercilessly. Shingo plucks Osprey out of midair as part of a bit of a comeback here. He lands a DVD to stop the onslaught. When he tries to follow up, however, B inserts herself between them, and Osprey uses the distraction to shove Shingo into the ring post. He then sets up a table, and they both try to send each other through it. Failing that, Shingo drops Will face first on the apron. Of course, that nose being affected again. He then tries to set up an attack off the apron toward the table, but B moves the table and then shields Osprey again. Just throw her out. But the match does return to the ring, and the momentum is still with Shingo. He flips Osprey onto the turnbuckle face first, and then locks in an STF, clutching that bruised face of Osprey. Osprey makes the ropes, but Noshigami is another perfect move in Shingo's arsenal, targeting that face. Kelly confirms it was, in fact, the La Mystica that did the damage to Osprey, as I had speculated when reviewing that match. The Made in Japan is countered, a pumping bomber is countered into a Stormbreaker attempt, or at least a setup, but Shingo stumbles when jumping out of that, and there's an awkward moment before he allows Osprey allows the planned lariat to connect. They should have done better with that. That was the worst moment of the match, I think, apart from B being involved. But it's only a small part. But Osprey leaps. What does he do? Leaps off Shingo in the corner, but is caught. Maybe I meant leaps off the turnbuckle, but he's caught. Osprey. That's Osprey leaping. Shingo hauls Osprey up, only to take a Spanish fly all the way down. Yeah, they're on the top turnbuckle. Shingo catches the Oz cutter that comes next, but they begin to trade. A lariat comes Osprey's way. He sent. Oh, that was amazing. So a pumping bomber lands, and Osprey cops it right in the chest, goes flipping over, but goes all the way over, lands on his feet and keeps running, and then nails Shingo with an Oz cutter. That gets a 2 count. That was a crazy move. Shingo slides out of the ring to buy some time to recover, but Osprey insanely comes flying off the turnbuckle, catching an Oz cutter to the outside. That's gotta hurt Osprey. Kind of a crazy move on his part, but he's a crazy guy. But you can tell they're going all out now. We're getting to the pointy end of this one. Takagi's in trouble, and Osprey's risk-taking isn't through. He lies Shingo on the table that he set up previously. He climbs back up the turnbuckles. And from the turnbuckle to the outside, he lands perfectly with a brutal 450 splash onto Shingo through the table. Insane move. The ring out count gets to 19 and Shingo is welcomed back to the ring with a springboard dropkick and then a shooting star press. Osprey's just piling it on. He wants the hidden blade, but Shingo can't even sit up to take it. And Red Shoes thinks about stopping the match for a moment, but Osprey slaps Shingo's head and tries to pick him up for the Stormbreaker. But Osprey's struggling for energy himself. Shingo manages to find his way to his feet and stands there stoically, just staring through his opponent. Osprey kicks at his head, and Shingo doesn't budge. Again, nothing. Again, and now Shingo's walking forward. He's doing that Ishii thing where he's just staring right at him and absorbing the blows and moving forward into them. And he corners Osprey until unleashing a barrage of elbows and lariats. Osprey tries to reclaim his advantage with the Chelsea grin, but Made in Japan is the counter, and Osprey lands right on his head. Pumping Bomber lands. Last of the Dragon is attempted. It's countered into a pin. It's counter after counter. Poison Rana lands for Shingo, and then a Pumping Bomber, and that is countered into another Spanish Fly. Chelsea Grin lands, and then the Hidden Blade. They land one after the other. Finally then, the Stormbreaker attempt is successful. He goes up, he comes down. Osprey pins Shingo and wins the 2021 New Japan Cup. There was a couple of hiccups, a couple of silly little things with B being involved, but otherwise, awesome match. So Osprey picks up the microphone with a torn rotator cuff is what he's got, and a broken nose is what he's saying. He says with all that, he's won the New Japan Cup as predicted. And yeah, they're clapping for him now, but they didn't support him before. He just dominated the heavyweight division as a former junior heavyweight, and Ibushi is next. And Ibushi stands up. Of course, he was at the commentary table. He enters the ring with his title belts over his shoulders. Osprey says he agrees with Ibushi's unification. He doesn't care about the lineage. He doesn't care about legacy. All he cares about is being number one. And as much as he hates to say it, Ibushi is number one currently. But Osprey needs that title more than anything. He loves that heavyweight title more than anything. And more than anyone. And he turns to B. He stares at her for a moment and then leaps up and gives B. Priestley a cutter. Cobb and Khan block Ibushi from doing anything about it, while B lays face down, and Osprey exits to an awkward silence with his British title over one shoulder and the big New Japan Cup trophy in the other arm. Backstage, Osprey says this trophy does not make him the best in the world. Being the World Heavyweight Champion does. He's been with B for 5 years. He has a house and a family with her, but all he loves is the title. This was his way of proving how far he would go. And he says, if I would do that to someone I love, just what the fuck would I do? Or what would I be willing to do to Ibushi? This part of his promo is pretty good. I rag on Osprey promos all the time. This was pretty good. And then the Empire guys enter, and they kenpai some Zimas, and Osprey says they'll go celebrate at the nearest bar as single men. So, okay. I mean, that's it. That's the event. That's all I don't know. I've seen people talk about this as being a way of, well, you needed to write B off the show. Like it's a sitcom. And I don't understand that at all. Like, she was pretty insignificant. She never really contributed that much. She would get involved in a match here and there. She would throw a little bit of a promo in here and there. But, I mean, mostly she was, for lack of a better term, eye candy. She was just kind of there to be... She was just there to be there, you know? She never really seemed to have too much of a purpose. And I don't think she was significant enough to need a write-off. And even if you think she does need some kind of story to leave, I don't think this was the best way to do it. It just seemed... like, I don't have a problem with it. Like, I'm not going to get into Osprey's controversies. He's had some run-ins with some women, or a couple of women in the wrestling industry that didn't particularly like him. From the little bit that I've read into that, it seems like he was just kind of a dick to him in a business sense. It was never anything like of a assault or sexual kind of a nature. If I'm wrong about that, then fair play. I mean, of course, anything like that wouldn't be on. But I think it's more just he didn't treat a few people very well. And I don't know. That doesn't sound like something you need to be fired over. But and he wasn't. But look, it's just if you've got a bad rap, I don't know about attacking women for no reason. Probably not super smart. It just seems like an unnecessary risk and maybe the wrong kind of heat. But I think maybe sometimes when it might be a bit of a can't see the forest through the trees situation. Like, they don't really realize it. I don't know. Actually, there was a promo that Bea Priestley did as a part of Stardom, and she just said that it's sexist for anyone to say that was wrong because she's a wrestler as well, and a wrestler hit another wrestler with a wrestling move. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, oddly sticking up for him. I don't know. So was it that? Was it just their way of being like, oh, we're going to rile people up and then we're going to tell them they were wrong for being riled up, and if B says it, they have to listen because she's the woman? I don't know. The whole thing was just kind of strange. And you know what the other thing was? Other than the promo that it got from Osprey, because it was a good promo, and it did make me more, a little more excited to see the match. I think he could have got the same promo across without just that particular action. And it just... If you need to do something like that to pull a good promo, then maybe you're in the wrong spot. Like, maybe you don't deserve to be in the top spot. I guess maybe that's what I'd say. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that Osprey needed to do that in order to cut that promo. I think he needs a bit of focus when it comes to his promos. He needs to figure out what his message is. But he can talk well when he kind of has his head on straight. Yeah, he's got a fine tuning that he needs, but I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to rant on about it. I guess it seemed like a step on a step in a way. Like, you've already got the New Japan Cup final. Like, that's what you should be excited about. You don't really need to be beating up women to dress it up any more than that. It's it's not even the New Japan Cup final. He just won the New Japan Cup final, so that's something in itself. And then he's got the title match coming up, and it's the first world heavyweight title match. Like, there's a lot going on here that doesn't really need this kind of cheesy. It was just oddball to me. Like, I didn't think, oh my god, that's so violent, how could he? I just thought, well, that was kind of weird and stupid. So, like, who would ever do that, by the way? Like, it's oddball in that WWE kind of way. I shouldn't just pick on WWE, just in that, tacky pro wrestling kind of way. Of just like, who would ever do that? That's just dumb. It doesn't really make any sense. Osprey made a bit of sense to it in that, if I would do that to someone I love, what would I do to you? But, I don't know. I feel like they could have come up with something else. Anyway, they did, there was a press conference after this where Sugar Bayashi announced a card for Sakura Genesis, and then Osprey cuts a pretty slimy promo. I did notice as well, he's wearing a necklace in this promo, and then that B. Priestley promo I mentioned, she's wearing the same necklace in hers, so I don't know. Are they're too cool for kayfabe now? Is that what it is? Oh, that's right, he cuts his promo, and then of course it's got to be translated, and he spoke for a while, so it's a long translation, and he's just sitting there, and then finally get to the end of it, and someone asks him a question, and he's been sitting there that whole time, and then he just goes, oh no, I'm not taking questions, and then he leaves. Like, why, if you're not interested in questions, just cut your promo, and then leave, and the lady can translate it while you go do something else. But, I don't know, I'm nitpicking now. Okay, so moving ahead. Oh, we got over an hour. Okay. From all my ranting. So there's going to be 2 warm-up shows before Sakura Genesis. We've got a bit of a downtime here. Hopefully time for some guys to rest a bit and take care of some injuries. So it's the 29th, which is tomorrow, and the 30th. Both of those shows at Korakuen Hall. There's a couple new faces on tour, just Wato's back and Tiger Mask, so probably just slowly warming up for the Best of Super Juniors, which might be after Sakura Genesis. I know they've got Don Taco at the start of May, so there's a gap in there. And then, but the big news here, both of those cards I had a look at, and they're both insignificant, really. There's nothing going on, like not even a trios title defense or anything like that. It's just a bunch of tag matches. They're like just house shows. But either, I don't know if it's before or after or during the show on the 30th, the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship belt will be revealed. Oh my goodness, I'm excited for that. If this belt lives up to expectations, it can only be the most beautiful belt of all time. Because that's how a lot of people consider the current heavyweight title. So the idea that they have to beat that is astronomical in terms of being able to live up to those expectations. It's really unrealistic, but we'll see. We're going to see. Because, yeah. And then at the same time, there's all the people going in already not wanting to like it because they just don't like what's happening. So, it's kind of like they're just going in with their arms folded, like, okay, show me a belt better than the heavyweight belt. And they kind of, they've already got that attitude going in, which I don't necessarily blame them for. It's kind of a negative outlook on life to have, but I get it. Like, you just don't like the storyline, and you don't think they should have done all of this, but whatever. We'll see. I think it's bound to be a bit of a shit show, really, on the night of or the next day. If it's a universal title situation, now that, they wouldn't do that, but gosh. Although, actually, funnily enough, if they did just bring out the heavyweight title again, just with World on it, I think a lot of people wouldn't actually be too upset with that. Whereas that was the problem with the Universal title. It was just the exact same belt as the WWE title at the time, and they just threw a red strap behind it. But, okay. Well, look, because I came so late with these, this final review, which again, I'm sorry for, we'll go through the Sakura Genesis card then. Doki, Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi will face the Gorillas and Grado. So, of course, that's kind of setting up the tag team title match. You've got Dangerous Tekkers versus Gorillas of Destiny there. And, perhaps more importantly, you've got Doki and Grado there to continue their funny little rivalry. But I don't think I mentioned it, but Taichi has mentioned that, I think he mentioned in his last promo, that he's got the Iron Fingers under control now. He hasn't used them since his huge kind of psycho moment at the end of their last tag title attempt, when he went after everyone, even his own teammates, with the fingers. I still don't like fingers. It should be glove. Glove, at least, a boxing glove. That's a damaging kind of a weapon. Fingers, I don't like that they call it the fingers. Maybe, you know what, I call them the trios titles because I don't like six-man titles. So maybe I'll just make a decision. I'm calling it glove. It's the Iron Glove. That's it. It's over. Next match is Yoshihashi, Goto, Yano, and Okada versus Toko, Evil, Kenta, Yujiro, and Ishimori. I think the main part of this one is those trios titles. Of course, on Yoshihashi and Goto at the moment, and of those guys, I don't think Ishimori would be the challenger. Yujiro is one of the challengers. Kenta's got nothing to do. Evil's got no. Yeah, I guess it would be Kenta, Evil, and Yujiro probably going for those titles. Because you've got Kenta and Yujiro as a bit of a. Kenta and Yoshi as a bit of a rivalry. Evil and Goat. Yeah, I don't know. I would suspect it's probably that's what comes from it. And then Shingo, Sonata, and Naito versus Khan, Cobb, and X. Khan, Cobb, and X, because X is the new member of the United Empire. But they're not called X. They're called whatever their name is. They're a mystery partner. And of course everyone thinks it's Hanare, because everything points to it being Hanare, except Hanare himself, who is making clear that he's leaving the country. But that just makes you think it's Hanare even more, because it is him trying to make it seem like it's not him, so it must be him. Although there is an outside chance, I suppose, that it's Tsuji, because him and Naito, the dialogue has all been around, well, what are you going to do to get my attention? And of course he's had previous talks with United Empire. There's some background there, so it's not just an out of nowhere ridiculous swerve kind of situation. But at the same time, he wants to go on an excursion. The spot makes more sense for Hanare. But you know what? He wants to go to Mexico and he keeps talking about Mexico. I don't think he's going to Mexico, man. I don't know. The impression I get is that Mexico is not out of the woods, even like by a long shot, when it comes to this virus situation. So maybe New Japan are gonna just be like, you know what, these guys, we want them to go on an excursion, but it's not an option right now. They need to take the next step, so we're going to filter them into some factions. I mean, and, Gabe Kid's just about there. I think Tsuji's, like, overripe at this point. Like, he's got to go. Umura, nah, he can stay. That's not so bad. But yeah, Tsuji's ready, man. Tsuji's ready for sure. So, who knows? I mean, I still think it's going to be Hanare, but you never know. They might throw a little swervy in there. And then, well, I guess in terms of the match, though, you've got United Empire versus LIJ. And LIJ are kind of on the downswing at the moment. They've all kind of lost their recent big matches. and the United Empire have already been through that at Wrestle Kingdom, and now they're on the upswing, and they've got a new member, so they want to push that. So I would expect a win for the United Empire in that one. It'd be interesting to see if this leads to an LIJ breakup, but I mean, we've been saying that for a while, and it's not going to happen because they're such big merch movers. But I tell you what, if New Japan has one storyline up their sleeve that's bigger or as big as the title and can be main events, it's the LIJ breakup. Shingo, Sonata, Naito, Hiromu. I'm purposely missing Bushi. Is that it? Who am I missing? Well, even just those guys. Like, those four are all like top stars in the company, really. And so if they're all fighting each other, I don't know. It's just that's a big angle for whenever they want to pull the trigger on that. I'm not predicting they do now, by the way. Anyway, Kojima and Tanahashi versus Fale and Jay White. This is just a couple of guys to take falls alongside the Tana and White Never title build. And then we've got the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match. Sho and Yo reunited to challenge Kanemaru and Desperado. Ugh, how many times have we seen this match for the junior tag titles? Gosh. On this occasion, I'd expect the champions to retain, just because it's only their first defense. And when guys return from injury, that New Japan usually has them lose. So, I think that makes sense there. And I hate to sound like a McMahon, but I mean, I did mention before that they were kind of on different pages with their futures. Yo was very much about the tag future, and Sho was very much about his singles future. So there could be something brewing there. I don't think so. And I mean, look, we need tag teams. Once again, like, let's not be splitting up tag teams that are actually good. We need more tag teams. And you know what? I think that's really probably just that the Best of Super Juniors is probably following this event. I'm guessing. I mean, they're building it up now, so that's what I am predicting fills in the time between. I mean, I'm surprised they wouldn't have announced it yet, I guess. Maybe I missed something. But yeah, they need something to fill in April. So why not Best of Super Juniors? And then, of course, we have the final match, the main event, IWGP World Heavyweight Championship on the line for the very first time. Will Osprey challenging Kota Ibushi. Yeah, you know what? I mean, the rest of the card's kind of probably somewhat missable, to be honest. I think it's a bigger-ish card. I'll watch it, of course, but it's not like a. Yeah, it's not stacked. I definitely wouldn't call it stacked. But this match, of course, is unmissable. This is history. Both these guys know that. Osprey knows that. Ibushi knows that it's historical. Those guys are crazy anyway. And the fact that they know this is going to be a match that's going to be memorable just will make them even crazier. And they're crazy good at being crazy. So it's kind of one of those matches, again, you can probably get overly excited for it and they'll still deliver. As long as you're not hoping for like a psychological classic. I would describe it more like a work rate bonanza. That's what I'd expect. And another announcement recently made was that 2021's Dominion, it'll be on the 6th of June. Which is business as usual at a glance, but then you might recall Wrestle Grand Slam. That was added this year, and that's just leading up to that. So New Japan somehow have to come up with a show for Yokohama Stadium on May 15th, and then get people excited again 2 weeks later for a Tokyo Dome show on May 29th, and then Dominion, which in recent history has arguably been the second biggest event of the year alongside Wrestle Kingdom. You know, you could argue the G1 finals as well. But I mean, you know, top three then, at least, right? Dominion. And so they've got to follow up these two stadium shows within 3 weeks with their second biggest card of the year. And then, like I said before, they've got, at the start of the month, they've got Wrestling Dongtaku across 2 days. So that's May 3rd and 4th. 2 weeks later, you've got Yokohama Stadium. 2 weeks later, you've got Tokyo Dome. And then a week later, you've got Dominion. Maybe they're just going to take April off. Maybe they just let everyone rest so that they're available for all these matches. That might not even be a bad idea. I'll tell you what, if they do that, then I'll be doing a lot of historical content, which I'd be happy to do, by the way. And we'll be doing. So first of all, there will be a bonus episode, historical bonus episode, covering the history of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, leading to this new championship belt. I want to see it first. I'll put my reactions to the new title belt there as well, and you know, just kind of the whole way it's introduced and whatnot, and I'll write an article about that too, because I've been a bit lazy in terms of writing recently. So look out for that. That'll be this week, because that's just a couple of days away. We'll be seeing that new championship belt. Very exciting. And then it's Easter coming up, so I have a few days off. I'll get out another historical episode, because it's been too long since I've done one now. They're supposed to be episodic. And it will be, but yeah, it's been a bit too long of a break between episodes. I'm up to date on Strong. There might be a Strong catch-up, but of course, before that, I've got to do a Sakura Genesis review. So, those are the things in my head at the moment. I think, what's that? Did I just say 4 shows? I think 4 shows over the 4 days I have off is probably a big ask, but we'll see how we go. That's my challenge. We'll see if I can get all of that done, but I think Strong might be the one to miss out. We'll see. Maybe my vocal cords are particularly strong, pun intended, on that day. But that's it for this one. I'm surprised I was able to drag it out this long, actually. So thank you for listening. You can find this on YouTube and I forget what the other ones are called. Anchor, Spotify. Look around for it. You can follow me on Reddit, JimSan11. You can follow me on wherever you're listening to this. And it'd be cool if you commented. Say something about it. But until next time, have a good one.